Mom, when you are sitting completely alone on the living room floor, clutching their old collar while tears stream down your face, and your surviving dog physically turns away from your embrace, do you secretly worry that they actually hate you? I am Claire, and I want to welcome you to Frenchiology, our safe, quiet, incredibly cozy little sanctuary. I know that your heart is completely shattered right now, and I know how terrified you are of making those comforting mistakes when your dog is grieving. Please, Mom, put down whatever you are doing, sit perfectly still with me by this fire, and let me wrap my arms around your exhausted shoulders. The pain of losing a family member, whether it is a human or another beloved dog in your pack, is an agonizing valley of shadows that you are both being forced to walk through. You desperately reach out, wanting to pull your surviving dog tightly into your chest, just to whisper into their soft fur that the two of you are going to be okay. But instead of melting into your embrace, their body goes completely rigid, they turn their beautiful face away from you, or they silently slink away to hide in the cold shadows under the guest bed. And right in that agonizing moment of rejection, a well-meaning but completely ignorant relative walks past you and scoffs. They cross their arms and cruelly declare, "See, dogs do not understand death. He is just scared because you are making such a loud, dramatic fuss. Stop humanizing the animal." Your heart shatters into a million pieces on that rug, and you silently punish yourself, thinking that you are a terrible mother who cannot even comfort her own grieving child. Please, Mom, I am going to completely shatter that toxic, heartless myth right now, because your motherly intuition is absolutely biologically flawless. Science has definitively proven that dogs carry a heart that is perfectly capable of breaking, and they possess a profound, ancient awareness of death within their pack. But the primitive language of their grief is vastly different from ours, and their silent retreat is not a rejection of your love. It is a symptom of a nervous system that is completely, overwhelmingly flooded. Tonight, under the warm, protective light of this fire, I am going to gently peel back the layers on 3 incredibly loving mistakes that are unintentionally locking your dog in a prison of silent sorrow. And most importantly, I will lovingly hand you the silent antidotes, the progressive, deeply peaceful actions that will instantly transform you into their ultimate safe haven, so you can walk through this valley of grief together. Number 1, the incredibly dangerous, well-meaning trap of smothering sympathy. I need you to think deeply about the wild, unbroken ancestors of our sweet dogs, and how a natural wolf pack processes a devastating death in the wilderness. When a wild pack loses a vital family member, the surviving animals absolutely do not gather around in a circle to wail, cry loudly, and desperately hug each other. In the harsh reality of nature, outward displays of frantic panic and loud wailing act as a giant, flashing neon sign that screams to every larger predator, "We are weak. We are broken. Come and hunt us." Therefore, their biological coping mechanism for immense grief is absolute, impenetrable, frozen silence. Now consider their miraculous olfactory system, which is constantly scanning the chemical makeup of your body. When you are sobbing uncontrollably, they can literally, physically smell the sharp acidic spike of the stress hormone cortisol pouring out of your tears and your sweat. When you wrap your arms tightly around them and sob into their fur, you are not comforting them. To their ancient primitive brain, you are sounding the ultimate biological red alert. You are screaming in their native language. The pack is in deadly danger. The predators are coming. Run for your life. Think about a gloomy, deeply depressing Saturday afternoon. You are sitting completely slumped over on the wet grass in your backyard. In your trembling hands, you are gently stroking a faded, chewed-up tennis ball that belonged to the sweet dog you just buried yesterday. Your surviving dog, confused and carrying their own quiet sorrow, timidly steps out onto the patio and slowly approaches you to check on their alpha. The second they are within reach, you lunge forward, desperately throwing both arms completely around their neck, burying your face into their wet coat and wailing from the absolute depths of your soul. Instantly, your dog violently shivers. They rapidly lick their lips, their eyes dart around in sheer panic, and they forcefully rip themselves out of your arms. They sprint away and wedge their body into the darkest, tightest corner underneath the wooden backyard deck, leaving you sitting in the cold grass, feeling utterly, completely rejected by your only remaining family. Or imagine the horrific, overwhelming pressure of the very first Thanksgiving dinner without your late husband. Your grown daughters have come home to visit. Everyone is trying to be brave, but the air is thick with unspoken grief, and eyes are constantly brimming with tears. In a desperate attempt to find comfort, they constantly pass your poor, grieving dog back and forth between them, squeezing him tightly and cooing in high-pitched, shaky voices. "Oh, you miss Daddy so much, don't you, sweet boy?" He is physically trapped in a vice grip of human sorrow, his eyes bulging white with sheer terror. Finally, completely incapable of bearing the biological stress for one more second, he loses total control of his bladder, urinating right there on your expensive Persian dining rug out of sheer, overwhelming panic. Mom, I want you to replace this chaos tonight with a breathtakingly beautiful practice I call the parallel presence. When your heart is breaking and your dog tentatively approaches you, I absolutely forbid you from looming over them or grabbing them from above. Instead, gently lower your own body. Sit completely flat on the floor, at least 3 feet away from them, and purposefully look away. Pick up a novel to read or pull out some knitting. Completely ignore them, allowing your solid, silent, grounded energy to slowly radiate outward, filling the room with absolute biological safety. You are giving them the ultimate gift, the vast, unpressured space to independently decide exactly when their fragile heart is ready to step into your orbit. And when they finally, bravely step forward and tentatively rest their chin on your leg, we must use the deep exhale reset. I beg you, do not suddenly burst into fresh tears or squeal with gratitude. Simply close your eyes, physically force your tense shoulders to drop 2 inches, and push a massively long, loud, quivering breath out of your lungs. That deep, resonant sigh is a literal biological telegram sent directly to their ancient brain, confirming the horrific storm has passed. You are perfectly, eternally safe here with Mom. Number 2, the incredibly cruel, entirely unintentional devastation of the scent erasure. To truly understand this, we have to grasp how uniquely a dog perceives the physical dimensions of their home. While you and I navigate our living rooms using our eyes to see furniture and old photographs, a dog reads the sprawling history of their family through an invisible, complex, spatial memory map. The lingering scent of their deceased friend, woven deeply into the fabric of a favorite pillow or a dirty blanket, is the absolute strongest biological anchor confirming that their pack actually existed. When you suddenly strip away all those scented items and wash the room in harsh chemicals, it is the biological equivalent of permanently blindfolding them, erasing their memory hard drive, and abandoning them in a terrifying alien labyrinth. Picture a devastatingly quiet Sunday morning. You wake up, and the crushing agony of seeing their empty orthopedic bed in the corner is simply more than your broken heart can bear. In a frantic, grief-fueled burst of energy, you decide to execute a total emotional purge of the house. You drag that beloved bed out to the alley dumpster. You aggressively vacuum every single square inch of the carpets, and you throw all the remaining throw blankets into a scalding hot wash with pungent, lavender-scented fabric softener. That evening, your surviving dog does not look relieved. Instead, they wander aimlessly through the pristine living room like a lost, panicked ghost. They frantically bark at completely empty corners and begin desperately clawing at the wooden windowsills because their brain is completely convinced they have been transported to a hostile, unfamiliar location. Or think about the well-intentioned cruelty of a visiting relative. Your sweet niece comes over carrying a brand new, incredibly shiny, expensive velvet dog bed. She says, "I brought him a beautiful new bed to cheer him up and replace those dirty old ones." But your grieving dog adamantly, fearfully, refuses to even place one single paw onto that luxurious velvet. Instead, later that night, you find him huddled under the dark dining room table, having successfully stolen a filthy, unwashed, odor-filled sock belonging to your late husband straight out of the laundry hamper. He rests his heavy chin on that stinky cotton fabric and refuses to move, drawing life-saving comfort from the potent, biological ghost trapped inside the threads. Mom, I want to hand you your healing antidote right now. You must aggressively build the scent sanctuary. For the first 2 excruciatingly painful weeks after a loss, I absolutely forbid you from throwing away or washing the favorite blanket, the chewed-up toy, or the unwashed sweater of the one who passed away. Carefully fold that precious, smelly fabric and place it deliberately in the absolute, quietest, darkest corner of your master bedroom. Allow your dog to visit this shrine whenever the panic sets in. Over the next month, practice the fading echo. You must let their miraculous nose naturally, gradually perceive that the specific scent is slowly dissipating into the air day by day. This biological fading is the gentlest, most organic way for their canine mind to process the permanence of death, completely saving them from a sudden, catastrophic psychological break. Finally, number 3, the absolute nightmare of disrupting the sacred anchor. When the Grim Reaper knocks on your door, the entire rigid social structure of a dog's pack is violently torn to shreds in a single second. In this state of overwhelming, paralyzing crisis, the only life raft keeping their primitive nervous system from completely detonating is the rigid predictability of their daily routine. Those boring, mundane habits are like a strong, steady heartbeat, constantly telegraphing to their brain that the actual world has not collapsed. But because your own heart is bleeding, you desperately try to spoil them to ease their pain, entirely changing their schedules, completely unaware that you are tossing their last life preserver straight into the fire. Let me paint a picture of a disastrous Tuesday evening. You see your depressed dog utterly refusing to eat their boring, dry kibble. Panic sets in. You rush out to a specialty pet boutique and spend $30 on the richest, most decadent, truffle-infused duck pâté you can find. Then, instead of taking your boring, quiet 5 p.m. walk around your local block, you shove them into the back of your SUV and drive an hour to a massive, incredibly loud inner-city dog park, just hoping the chaos will cheer them up. The heartbreaking result? Their fragile stomach violently rejects the rich food, and they vomit profusely onto your car's floor mats. Once you drag them to the park, they are so completely paralyzed by the overwhelming noise that they scramble underneath a cold concrete park bench, shaking uncontrollably for the entire hour. Or consider the incredibly intimate, devastating mistake of the pity sleepover. For their entire 10-year life, your dog's sacred, established routine has been sleeping downstairs on their large orthopedic mattress. But tonight, your heart just bleeds for their loneliness. At 2 a.m., you creep downstairs, scoop up their heavy body, and carry them up into your own warm bed, aggressively burying them under your thick down comforter. You expect them to cuddle, but instead they spend the entire night panting heavily, pacing restlessly across the mattress, completely incapable of closing their eyes. You have entirely destroyed their circadian rhythm, leaving their traumatized brain completely without a compass. Mom, I implore you to build them an unbreakable fortress tonight with my final antidote, the iron clock. Tomorrow morning, you must enforce a schedule that is as rigid and unforgiving as military time. Pour their normal, boring kibble into their bowl at exactly 7 a.m. Not 7:15, exactly 7 a.m. If they refuse to eat and walk away, do not follow them. Leave the bowl on the floor for precisely 15 minutes, and then silently, entirely without judgment, pick it up and put it in the pantry until 6 p.m. This ruthless consistency is the most profound psychological message you can send. It tells their terrified brain, Mom is still driving this ship. The sun still rises, the food still comes, and the world has absolutely not ended. And for their daily exercise, enforce the silent walk. Keep them strictly on their ancient, boring neighborhood route. Loosen that leash entirely into a soft J shape. Do not rush them. If they want to stand completely motionless and aggressively sniff the base of one single oak tree for 15 solid minutes, you plant your feet and you let them. Deep, unrestricted sniffing acts as a massive, natural tranquilizer, peacefully draining the toxic anxiety right out of their skull without forcing their aching joints to run a marathon. Mom, please. I want you to take your glasses off for a moment. Set your tea down on the table and look right into my eyes. That heartbreaking moment when they turn their back on you, or when they retreat to the cold shadows under the bed to sigh in the dark. It is absolutely not because they are rejecting your desperate love, and it is certainly not because you are failing them. It is an incredibly breathtaking biological truth. Their hearts are vast enough and wild enough to hold an unmeasurable ocean of love. And because they love so deeply, they must also carry an agonizingly heavy mountain of grief when a piece of their universe goes missing. I beg you to fiercely ignore any ignorant family member who dares to tell you that you are making too much of a fuss over a mourning animal. The simple fact that you are sitting here with me, swallowing your own bitter tears just so you can protect their bleeding, fragile nervous system. That is the most magnificent, sacred sacrifice a true, heroic mother could ever possibly achieve on this earth. You are not delusional, Mom. With every silent, disciplined step you take, you are quite literally using your own soul to carefully stitch their shattered heart back together. Tonight, I want you to pour yourself a large, steaming cup of chamomile tea. Sit perfectly still in your favorite armchair and just wait. Give them the ultimate space to decide exactly when they are ready to step out of the shadows and back into your light. And please, I would absolutely love to hear from you down in the comments. Tell me, what was the very first tiny action your grieving dog took to politely signal to you that they were finally ready to accept your comfort again? Was it a slow, heavy chin resting on your knee? Or perhaps just a long, shuddering sigh from across the room? Please share your painful stories below. At Frenchiology, we are a family, and nobody here will ever judge a single tear you shed for an animal. Please subscribe to Frenchiology, Mom. Together, we are going to patiently hold their paws as they walk out of the dark and transform their twilight years into a masterpiece of peace. Warmly, Claire.